Hey, what's up, guys? So, this is my guide to the Shadow King trials, and I'm not going to do any of the music or the animations. This is just more about putting together a guide where I've had a lot of practice with this one system, and there are other systems that'll get you good scores and even better scores than this one. But I think this one is pretty reliable in what I've discovered in the first two missions. If you can go about it a certain way and you look for certain drops to make sure that those two first missions have the scores that you're looking for, which I think ideally you can get a 296 on the first two, and that absorbs the impact of the other missions if your scores are a little lower. But in this particular run here, I put together my best scores so that you can see how this run can get you a top score. I think it's ideal for people that want to get into the top 5,000. And then we can talk about the ways that I've gone in and actually made it so that you don't have to try to be top 100, 200, or 500 if you're not wanting to put that kind of time into it, and still get to the 4, 5 red stars on your Shadow King. So what I want to do is show you guys where I'm ranked currently, or when I finish this run, and already I'm dropping. And so this is why I don't suggest pushing for the top 100 or top 1,000, 2,000. If you can use this video to maintain that position, that's great. I think the goal is to finish top 5,000. And if you can do that or maintain the next slot where you're in a safe position with your score, then that's what you focus on. Because I have a section at the end of the video where there's a strategy to still get the 4 and 5 red stars for most players, even if you finish top 5,000. But I think top 5,000 is pretty important to make that happen. So mission 1 for me is the most important mission and your chance to get it to the score that you want to have. Mission 2 is equally as important. I believe if you get a 296 on missions 1 and 2, it'll absorb the impact of any lower scores or imperfections as you go further into the trial. And so after multiple times of running this, I've come up with somewhat of a reliable system. There are variations, and I've put a bonus section in the end so you can see that, so you can see how you can still get a 296. But overall, I like these ISOs, and I like this positioning. And what I found is if you take this approach, you can reliably get a strong score. Even a 288, a 296 is very good for this section. And so what I like to do is I like to hit this first Moon Knight with the Nightcrawler and stun him. And then the second Moon Knight, I go in and stun him with Old Man Logan. Now, what we want to keep in mind is we want to finish with Old Man Logan's ultimate. We want to prep the death pool for 4 charges. So when we get a chance to do her pings, that's very important. And so what I like to do is I like to hit that hand assassin in the front, ping him, so there's a good chance to get him out of the way. There's another strategy where we hit the hand assassin behind the Moon Knight, and that can get you a 296 as well. We're hitting the middle of the pack, preferably Daredevil, because you can eliminate the whatever sorcerer her name is in the back, and that special is just for damage. Now ideally you want your Daredevil to take a turn, get his hits in, and if you get the pings just like this, then you're set up. And right here is where you want to be able to go in with your Old Man Logan's claws out into that noble, because he can't evade or dodge. And so this puts in a lot of damage to set the wave up for your best run. And what I like to do is target the Shang-Chi, because he can be a problem. So if you can kill him, the RNG here is to get the node finished off with the pings. You get another ping to take your death pool up to 2 charges, and now you're set. Now it's okay if you haven't killed the I forget her name, but you haven't killed her here, because you can finish out. What you want to do is you want to start this section here, and I'm at good timing. I like to use the Vol special on the Oath and Old Man Logan special on Blade. Now I'm ahead of schedule, so when you drop here, you can use his special right on Blade. You want to use the Odin's Ult right there. It preps everything so you can get a good score. If you're not able to get it somewhat here, then you want to reset. Now you see I get my last ping in. So the hope is that you're set up again to get the ultimate from the Odin. If you don't, you can still rely on the pings, and sometimes the pings will get it done. Now you see here I elect to use Old Man Logan special again because I need his ult when he comes up again, and I'm able to get the pings and the RNG to finish this run, and this is actually the best score I've ever gotten. I've gotten a couple 312s, a 304, and the 304 I ran, I didn't have the death pool prepped, so you want to make sure you have her prepped. But a 296 is very much doable and reliable, and so that's something to shoot for, but it does take some patience and going in and doing it over and over again. If your tunes aren't as strong, you can get a 288, and 280s would be the rock bottom score I would shoot for on this first section, as well as the second section if your tunes are not built up enough for it. Now, so when we go into this next section, we want to use Iron Man. Ideally, you want to put the Hank behind the Captain Britain, Iron Man in the middle, and then Shuri. You want to run those ISOs you saw, and when we start, we're going in on leader. We want a special on leader right here with Shuri, because this is going to take away his charges, and we want a special again with Hank into the leader. It's important to use the Captain Britain's ult into the leader with this particular sequence here. And so when you do that, you're prepping him to die when you get to the Shuri ult. Now, what I like to do is I like to switch targets Abomination, do the ult here because there's enough damage on him to make sure that he's going to die timely. We go back to the Lizard, we special with Iron Man, and now we're ready. What we do here is we take the hits. These hits are going to get the charges up on Shuri. You see the charges going from 1 to 5, and we have the safeguard and immunity, so we're not being hurt by these hits. You take the damage, and then you target the Lizard. And I have made a mistake and target the leader, and it can get you a good score, but you want to target the Lizard. Ideally, the way you can tell this run is going the way you want it to is the Lizard, the leader will die. You focus in on Lizard enough to get him down. Now, in some runs, he will die or he won't die. It doesn't matter because you want to get over to the Cravens and you want to get them down. This is how you get the next wave to drop, and you need the wave to drop around this time to get a good score. Now, once again, a 296 is a good score. If you have lower level tunes than a 288 or 280 would be just fine, but you want to get them down. So if you kill one or both, you're in great positioning. I like to go in on the Red Hulk. No matter who's next, I want to stun him or ability block him. I take that ult, if possible, from Iron Man onto the Doc Ock. Now, if I can, I'll block the Doc Ock, but it's more important to go ahead and focus on the Red Hulk. So I switch gears to him because all the assists after hitting that Doc Ock has taken him down. So now I can go back to him and focus on trying to get him out of this wave. And so now you see the next wave drops. I want to shift to the Green Goblin and start hitting him until I'm able to stun him or block him. Then, because of the way it drops, I want to go ahead and hit the Iron Patriot that is going to be probably closest to him or furthest away from a tune that could be left dangling. So in this particular run, I hit the one in front of the Green Goblin, and now I'm going to hit the next one with the special. Either one I think you do because it gives the damage. You're not going to need the special. You're going to need the ult later. And so now we just want to wrap it up. So I'm going to use the ult here just for the damage on all of them. And what you're looking for is them all be low so that when you get the assists or you get any slams, you can knock them out. In a lot of cases, the Iron Patriot never takes a turn, but you can see here he took a turn, it didn't matter, and I was able to get a good run. Now, once again, a 296 is the goal when you're on this mission, but you can get 300s, and if you get a 288, I think that's a great score to go forward with. A 280, I would say, will be the rock bottom because this is how you solidify the rest of your missions with your top scores that you can get and be able to reset as many times as you like on those first two missions. So here I like to go in with the Cabal team, and I do like to use Agatha and the Lady Deathstrike. There are other tunes you can use here, but what happens here for me is if I have Lady Deathstrike prepped properly, then I can take her into the next section. What happens to me in this particular run is I get stuck and I move a little bit too fast with the Lady Deathstrike in that next section where I'm going to need her. And so I end up using Blade. And Blade is a great option if you have them and you have them built up decently. You'll have much more control with Blade, and you can get a good score with Blade as well. Either one is great. The thing is, you would want to have your Lady Deathstrike special ready if you elect to use this particular system. So going in with the Lady Deathstrike and the Agatha, I think you do want the two of them in the back. I don't think it matters which way, and I like leader in the middle. What happens here is if you want, you have to keep in mind that both Cabal sections share a score. And so if you take the first run to get the better score and use Agatha's ult, then your second run won't be as high. Now, there is a strategy where you can just go in, and the ideal thing to do would be to get a 360 on this section, and then you can go for a 400 on the next section, or at least settle for the I think it's a 392. But for me, I went in because I wanted to try it to get a top score, which was, in this case, I think a 372. And then that limits the score I can get on the second section, which we'll talk about a little bit more there. But ideally, the best run here would be to get a 360 to finish with the leader's ult so you can be prepped for the next section and go for that 400. So there are a number of ways to do this, and I don't think you can go wrong. I elect to hit the middle because my hope is what I want is for the next wave to drop. It does, and then I can focus in on this Black Knight. Now, once again, if you're going for the 360, you're going to save the Agatha's ult. I'm not, because I want to try something else, like I said earlier, and the goal is to get the Black Knight out as soon as possible. Now, the pings do matter, and so you're going to rely on a little RNG there. But you'll see that I'm able to get the Black Knight out. It's still good timing, and the next wave drops. The problem is, because I already used the Namor's ult earlier, I'm going to have to use Lady Deathstrike's ult to get the damage in, and that limits your Lady Deathstrike. So a few more turns and your Lady Deathstrike special is prepped. But you can see using the Agatha's ult makes this a good run. And so I think this is a solid score. If you like this system, it's much easier. You don't have to do a lot of resets. You'll probably get a score right around this 376, one turn less, one turn more because of the pings, and you'll be in a very solid position to go forward on the next Cabal section. So I wouldn't stress this part too much. As long as you have a decent score, just move forward. So I do like to run the LDS version in here. Blade is just as good. So if you have Blade, you want to use him. Blade is for control. The Lady Deathstrike is for damage. Now, the key thing here is I like these ISOs. You want to have a skirm on your Vol. I think the mistake I made here, or maybe I changed it later because I'm just using this as a screen for you guys to understand the placement order, is you want your Nightcrawler as a skirm as well, because there's a chance that he will not land his stun. Now, if your Nightcrawler is really big, he may still land it, but it's very important that he lands. And the way I go into this is you want to use him to land the stuns as much as possible on the Sentinels and then later on the Nimrods. So before we move on to the footage, the main thing if you do use the Lady Deathstrike is you need her special prepped. If it's not prepped, you're not going to be able to have, because she does bring a certain amount of control with her special, you're not going to be able to go in and control the Sentinels. But with Blade already being ready, you can. And so Blade is a much safer route to go. It is more predictable. It is less resets. So I do suggest using Blade, but if you have a bigger Lady Deathstrike, go in with her. Now, I forgot to mention earlier, part of the prep here is you want to have Nightcrawler's ult prepped and the Vol's ult prepped. And I'm not sure if it really matters where you start with the Nightcrawler's ult. I like to start on that end because when I have Blade, I'm going to go into that middle bot because I'll get a little more control over him. And you can see that it's going to land some damage and control over the Silver Samurai and the Sabretooth. Now I do like to go to one of those back bots for the ult. I choose the other side because on the left because I'm going to go to the side on the right to use the Thanos special on that far end sentinel. And that's important because one of those two are going to go next on the far ends. Then I'm going to go back over to the sentinel in the back on the other side, and I want to stun him with the gladiator ult. And so now we have a little bit of control. Now that one bot that hasn't been touched in the middle, this is where we're going to hit with the Nightcrawler special so we can stun him. And so hopefully by moving in on Blade on that first bot next to the Omega Sentinel, you can come in and kill that bot. Now what I like to do is I like to save, well, we're going to ult here because it's more for damage, it's more for control over the entire, this wave. And we come back to the Oath or the Omega Sentinel with the Vol special. And no matter where she is, you want to use it. Now this was great placement to make sure that I hit that bot that awakened so that now I can move back over to him with Blade. This is for control, this is for damage so that he doesn't get to go. So this particular bot is still a threat. So I want to put the slow here on him. And fortunately for me, the assists end up killing both those bots in the back. That may not happen, and don't worry about it. As long as you have control over them, you're fine. So I have a little time here, and I want to go ahead and hit the lady, the Omega Sentinel, because once he's on the ground, then I have more control over her. And so that's one turn I'm able to do that. And after that, I want to shift my focus over to the Nimrods. Now I want to pick the Nimrod where I can chain. I select the first one because because I can chain over. But if you don't, and because of placement, it doesn't matter. You'll get a chance to maybe chain with this Thanos special. So you want to hit the other one and stun him. And I like to do that because the Thanos puts in a lot of damage on the one that's going to be next to the Oath. Now we're going to use a slow here because now we got to control that first one. There's a lot of damage with that, and that helps a lot. We're going to use the special here. Once again, we're saving the ult for the next mission where we're going to need our Vol. And so because I don't have the control over this Nimrod, I use Nightcrawler special again to stun him. Now I have control. And so what I want to do is try to get this Oath out of, or this Omega Sentinel out of there. So I'm going to go right there in the middle with Blade to get the damage in. Now keep in mind, we do need Blade's ult up, so we got to be careful to make sure we get that. And so here, I go ahead and use the special because I know I'll get it back, and it's for more damage on the other Sentinel to get him out of the way. And now it's just about trying to finish it out and make sure that I have the special and the ult from the Vol. I don't need the ult anymore. I don't need guard anymore, so I use that for more damage to get this particular mission finished off with the best efficiency I can get. And so once again, this can play differently. The goal is that you want to just keep control over the Sentinel so that they don't take a turn, and you have time to get to the Mega Sentinel. And ideally, if you block her with your Vol, then you're in good shape. Now, when I go into this section here, I like to use the Mercs with the zombie Iron Man. And so here we're going to change our Old Man Logan to Skirmisher. It helps a lot to have him as a skirm because this way he'll clear the taunts off both the Absorber Man, and you need that to take place in order to make this run work because they both have to not be taunting in order for your prepped death pool to kill the Weaver. So what I like to do is just keep resetting until Titania hits Old Man Logan first. I do like to go claws out into the Absorber Man on the right. I don't know if it makes a difference, but I like hitting that one. And now I'm set up because both taunts are cleared to go in with the lady, the death pool, and kill the Weaver with the ult. That's what the prep was for. My next target is Kestrel, and what you'll notice is that Kestrel does not hit as hard for some reason if Weaver is not there. So maybe they put some kind of synergy between the two. Maybe it's just for this trial. But I keep the focus on her to get her out of there because I don't want her to get another hit in on me. And so now I'm set up pretty well. Iron Man, we hit that Absorb Man in the back of the trio. And so now we're set up for the next wave to drop. But what I want to do is put a little damage in on Absorber Man on the right. He may die, he may not. And so with this wave here, I use Death Pool. I don't savor, and I try to spread from whoever I can spread from that has the most negative buffs. Because ideally, if we can eliminate this pack with the Dokken, then we're going to get a good run. Now I'm going to use the ult here because we have enough time to get it back. This is just for pure damage so we can set this run up to get the best score. And at some point you're going to shift your target so you can make sure you hit the middle of the pack. Sometimes it's Varl in the back, but to be safe, I went ahead and moved to the, I believe it's Moonstone in the front, and this is where you ult. So that way you can get all the damage that you can on those tunes that's left. Some will fall over, some won't. If one is left, you want to start focusing in on Kang. It doesn't matter. And so what I do is I hit Kang with Death Pool's basic just to get a little bit of damage on Ultron. You may not have Death Pool up next, whatever it is you want to focus in on Kang. We are going to use Old Man Logan special here on Kang. We want to stun him. Anybody that's left, most likely, Old Man Logan's going to kill him. Now we're going to shift over to the Ultron. We want to put some damage on him, hopefully kill him so he revives. And if you make your target the Ultron and get him down low, you can get an assist from Kang, and he will sometimes kill the Ultron. In this case, he was low enough for me to go ahead and go back in with Lady Deathstrike. Just make sure I get a spread. You can use the basic or the special. On this section, I would shoot for at least a 296. You can get into 300s. You see I got a 312. I think that's very doable. You do need to have Dokken built up pretty well so he can hit hard. I think if you have a 1 diamond on him, you'll be fine. I happen to have 3 diamonds, but I think a 1 diamond can put in that same damage because as a raider, he's going to help set up Old Man Logan, and that way you can knock that mission down pretty easily. So for this particular section, I do like this placement order. And I've done it a bunch of times. I don't get a great score. There are guys that can get a better score on this section than I do. And so what you may want to do is refer to those guys if you can get a better score than what I get here. What I found is making the Thanos a raider is key. And so this sequence, I'm not going to talk it through because it goes pretty quickly, but you do want to just use the specials on that Sasquatch in the back and then shift to the ult on the Sasquatch in the front. Play these first 4 or 5 moves the same way every time. Ideally, if you get the Thanos ult, you put it on that first Sasquatch. Sometimes on the second one, doesn't matter. And the best runs you'll find is when that Panda Pool is in the yellow. If you can kill him, that's great. If not, you hopefully will kill him with this move here. And so in many cases, you're going to need to try to get this other Panda Pool killed off before the Death Pool drops. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And so I go in with the special here, more so for damage and control over him. This basic tends to take the revive away. Sometimes it doesn't, but ideally you'll go in with your Gore ult and you have a lot of control. You can knock that wave down. If you don't worry. You still can get a good score. You're just going to have to just get the dead pool out of there as quick as possible, and then keep some type of control. Actually, if you can, before that wave drops, if you get a chance to put a ability block or something on the Guardian, then you're in good shape. The best runs come when you have this section down to here and then Old Man Logan drops. And then you want to shift immediately to him. And so you just want to be careful that you don't trigger him. And so if your gladiator's at full health, you can take a lot of control over the Old Man Logan and go forward. Now, in some cases, your Thanos will, his passive will proc, and that can be a good thing. In this case, it doesn't, and that's fine. I take the hit from the North Star. Otherwise, you'd have control over the North Star if his passive went off. What you can see here is I'm still just trying to focus in on the Old Man Logan. And this is when the passive goes off. It is very helpful because it will help you finish these last tunes off with better efficiency. If it doesn't go off, it's much harder to get a higher score. So whether it goes off before Old Man Logan drops or after, you have a good chance to get a pretty good score, or this type of score what I'm getting. There could be a different system, and so you may want to try that. I do use the ult here because I just want to have control over that death pool and try to finish this thing out strong. I'm not going to actually use my annihilators anymore anyway. I will use Thanos. but not the rest of them, because we're going to one-shot the final node with Illuminati. So I believe my best score was a 246, maybe it was 248. I think it was a 248. And ideally, I think a 240 is a very good score to shoot for if you can. 232, I think, is acceptable. When you start getting under that, I think you got to go ahead and redirect yourself. And keep in mind that 20 turns is a 280. So when you start dropping below that, you want to stay focused. So if you're getting past 25 turns, you know you're going to be having a very low score, and you just want to go ahead and reset. So on this node, if your Agatha is prepped with her ult, you shoot for the 400. I believe that's 5 turns. If you get 6 turns, I think that's pretty good. In this particular case, she's not. Now, you do want to use your APOC here, and it's very important that you start it off the way I'm going to start it off here, so that you can get rid of the first wave, and by the time APOC does his punch. So what you want to do here is you want to put the APOC's target on the Morbius. And ideally, you reset this until you get all of these tunes killed off by the time you get to big time, and you do the APOC punch here. The thing is I was trying to see how far I could go with it, so I didn't get a chance to do another run with Agatha to see if the pings would be better. But I think Lady Deathstrike is still fine here. Somebody that can hit hard, or you take somebody in that can get some pings or some assists, because you just want to finish this off as strong as you can. You still have Cabal. They're going to do a lot of damage. They're going to get assists. And so I would have rerun this, but when I got to the Iron Patriot special, I just wanted to see the type of damage that would be done, and he actually cleared out the entire wave. And I said, well, we're just going to keep it, because I was only going to get maybe 1 turn better. If best case scenario, I would have got 2 turns better, which would have probably put me higher up on the leaderboard. But the main thing I want you guys to see is how this thing can work out, and you can get a good run. Even with a mistake late in the game or the trial, as I did here, this being a 368, I think 1 or 2 turns better, that's great. You see I settled for this, and I was still able to get my score up into the top 100. So now we're going back in with our original team that we used on the first section. Lady Deathstrike would not be used here at all. You're going to go in with Blade, even if you use Lady Deathstrike on the first one. And you want to have, once again, your Nightcrawler as a skirm. So I did not change him to skirm, because you want to make sure that he lands his stuns. And so you see it can get done, but I have a very big Nightcrawler, and so this was just because he was landing the stuns, I didn't double check. You do want to double check, make him a skirm, and I think you can still keep the Thanos a Raider. I ran it like that, and it did fine. The way that I want to go in is just have control over the Dazzler as much as possible. If you can stun her before she takes a turn, I think that's great. If not, then you still want to take control over either the Dazzler or the Gambit. So those are your targets once you get past anybody that's taunting, whether it's the Bishop or the Bishop and the Rogue. So you can special on the Dazzler here, but I think it's better overall to just go ahead and ult here, because you're putting a lot of damage. And if you do take her hit, then you're going to just shift right over to Gambit. If you don't take her hit, then you could actually stun her here. And so when you stun her, she's not able to do her ultimate, and that's a big problem with trying to get a good score on this node. And so I've done that. Now Gambit becomes my next target. So I've got to get some control over the Gambit as soon as possible. In your better runs, you may be able to get to Gambit before he goes stealth. I was not able to. Colossus is taunting, so it's like I got to get past the taunt. I don't think that's much of a problem, because Nightcrawler has so much damage that you see what he's able to do when he chains across. I think what you're looking at here is you want to take the opportunity for Blade special to hit where it can hit into the Gambit. And I think once you do that, you're in much better shape to have control over this section. And so now it's all about a strategic placement with the Vols special. I want to block the Madeline in the back, and so now I don't have to worry about her. Rogue is still under control. I don't need Thanos, so I'm going to go ahead and ult right here. And this is how I really wrap this whole mission up, and I'm able to end up with a score that I like. So my next best score for this particular mission was a 352. So I think you can reliably get a 352 or a 360. And so you can shoot for those scores and reset till you get them. For me, this section is about going in with the Undying and Old Man Logan. We're going to switch Old Man Logan back to a striker. I have the screen frozen just so you guys can see the placement. I do like this placement. I do like the ISOs I have on the rest. And so you need Old Man Logan's ult up in order for this to work. Some guys do go ahead and use versions with Lady Deathstrike and they prep her. Once again, you would have to work the first section to complement this section. So the way I've done it, the first section, is to have it prepped this way. There could still be a way to interchange this team after using it the first way. And so to get a better score on the first section and in this section, then I would refer to other videos to see how you would want to use whichever strategy is better for you, merging the two or whatever works best to get you to where you want to be with your scores. So the key to this strategy is make sure that your cloak doesn't get his ult off. So we're going to lead in on him. And what Joker reminded me of is that the Gregs don't count as a turn. So you do want to keep count so you can have an idea where you're going to end. So before you actually finish it off, you can have an idea what your score is going to be. But we're all in on Cloak until he falls over. And then I think the key next move is that you want to go ahead and get to the Thor and spray it from him because he usually is the one that has the ability block on him. And so you see here, Cloak falls over. It's usually good timing so that we can go right in with our Hela. In some cases, maybe you want your Old Man Logan sandwiched between the two, the zombies there. But I do like this positioning. It seems to do okay. You can tweak it to see if you can get a better run. I think it's ideal to stun the Nova just for more damage than anything else. And so that way we can have control over him. You do want to have some control over the Cosmo because you don't want Cosmo to heal up the team. If Cosmo does, then you want to just start it back over. I don't know that it really matters who you lead off with this ult, but you do want to use it. It could be the Gwen. I like to hit one of the tunes that's going to do a blind. It's usually the first one on the left. And then now we're going to put a little focus either on the Gwen or the Firestar in the back so that we can make sure they're chipped away and don't take a turn, that we have control over them. So once again, I don't want to get a blind, and so I focus in on him. Fortunately, the other Star-Lord was killed off that way, and so now I can just kind of zero back in and just, I'm going in all damage, but I do want to save Old Man Logan's special, so when this wave drops, I can take control over the Thor because we don't want him slamming us every chance he can get. The way I go about this, I don't focus in on either of the Infinity Watch yet. Once I stun the Thor, I want to get a little damage in on those two so that I can make sure they're going to fall over. Once they're under control, then I'm going to shift to the Moondragon because what I want to do there is I want to kill her before she gets a chance to heal the Atom. And so this is where you can maybe come up with a better system because if you can one-shot Atom or make sure he doesn't revive, then that will get you a better score. But as you see here, I'm able to go in on her and I'm hitting her enough so that she's not going to be able to get a turn. And then that way, at least they're not healed up and it doesn't give Atom a chance to get healed up on full. So that's why I focus in on her the whole time. Now she's gone, so I can shift over to the Atom and then I can wrap this up with most likely the best score I'll be able to get. Also, when I've made the leaderboard before, I think my best score on this particular section was a 200. So this is a better run. And I've taken scores and still hit high on the leaderboard with, what is it, a 176. But that's not acceptable. So anything lower than a 200 or even a 200, I think you don't keep it because you can get a better score. If you're around a 200, like I said, you can probably find a better system. I was comfortable just doing this so you guys can see what I've been doing the entire time, trying to work the same exact teams all the way through as much as possible, with the only change being the Lady Deathstrike. So my score is a 248. I thought off memory it was a 240. So 248 is very good for me using this particular team and this style on this mission. And so when we go into the last mission here, we just want to have our Illuminati ready. The main thing is you're going to save that Shuri ult until your Odin drops. That's very key. I think other than that, you can really play around with how you're going to do your hits. You're just going to keep a count to try to get the best score you can. I wasn't too concerned. I did one attempt before this just to kind of see how it would play out. We're going to go the same placement order. And for me, well, we do use her ult here. And I like to go into the Lady Thor because that way I know I can kill her. And so we have enough time to get that ult back. Now, Sylvia is the next target for me, so I usually like to go in on her so that she's just not able to do anything. And then I'm going to go in on one of the Thors. So for me, in this particular sequence, I wanted to go into the back Thor. I was hoping to get Sylvia out of there, and you see Thor is out of there. And so you can select between who you want to hit. I wanted to get a little bit of damage on that Thor, and then eventually I'm going to get over to the Vol because we want to take care of Vol so she doesn't ignite this wave. And as soon as I'm able to get whatever toon can take control over the Beta Ray Bill so he doesn't get a turn, I'm going to use that ability so I can make sure that I have control over him. Once I have control over Beta Ray Bill, it doesn't really matter who's left. You don't have to priority, in my opinion, you don't have to priority target anybody after that. So I'm going to use the ult here because, like you see, it lands a trauma, he's stunned, and so now I have control over him. And because this Team Loki has the highest health, I target him with the ult. But I pretty much have control over it, so it's like, okay, we're just going to go ahead and hit the Team Loki. I thought about Sylvie, but I was able to kill Team Loki. And so Vol is a big threat overall, just because she can revive. So I'm going to go in on Vol as much as I can to get Vol out. Now, if Vol is not dead, it's okay when Odin drops because you can still get splash damage to kill the Vol. Sylvie to me is a bigger threat, so I like to go in on the Sylvie. I've done it going in on Hela. It can play out the same, but I went on Sylvie because she was placed next to Sif, so I wanted to get Sif out of there. And now I'm back to the Vol. Vol is stunned, so I'm pretty safe. And so the main thing now is just you want to have some even damage on them to tip them away, understanding that Vol is probably going to be the strongest. But at this point, Odin drops, so it's all in on Odin. I don't worry about if there's one or two toons left because, like I said, the AoEs and the splash damage are going to kill them. And I do have Shuri's ult up. You use it immediately. This is how you're going to get your best score. Now, you can tweak this and probably get a better score than what I get here, but I was totally fine with the score I got. I was pretty sure that it was going to place me pretty high on the leaderboard. I did not know with the mistakes that I made back on the Cabal section, I would hit the top 100. So you can see how there's still room for improvement, even with this system, to get the top score that you can get. So I was able to get a 288. It didn't take a whole lot of effort. And so when you're near the end here, if your other missions have been done accordingly, I don't think you have to spend a whole lot of time here. You can if you want to. I think a 288 is a solid score. Like I said, you can definitely do better. And you can see here where it puts me with a new high score. And so I'm pretty high up with that score. I'm comfortable with it. I don't have to do another run. I made just to see what other guys have been doing to see how those systems work and compare to mine. So that can be a talking point down the road when we're in the chats. But overall, I hit rank 88. And for all intents and purposes, this will be my last run for a top score. So I've put together a section at the end here where I do want to give you one bonus scene on the first mission where this particular run, you can reliably get a 296 or even a 288. But before we go to that scene there, and that's on mission 1, I just want to show you where I'm at with the Shadow King trials. And so you see I'm at 280. And what I'm trying to do here is just show you how by using the store and strategically planning with the store, now you would have to spend gold because you got to buy the pieces in the store to be able to get this. And my hope is to get to a 6 red because I bought the deal. And I'll just show you this part because I don't think you need to buy the deal. But if you do buy the deal, this is what it does for you. Now, the deal I'm talking about is the snow globe calendar. And so if you look at the right, you count down, you see 1, 2, 3, 4 100s. And then in the bottom one, you see 5. So on ideal store, that means you have 50. I have 50 more left. Then you count across, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you do 5, 5, and 5, that's another 100. And then that last row is another 100. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 90. And so let's just jump back over here. So if you were to add the 90 to this 280, then I would have 370. I'd only be 30 away. That's just from the calendar. So with the 370, let's jump over to the store. Now in the store, you would have to buy this snow globe. This is 3 million. You see where I have 93,610, and at the corner is 93,6. But if you click on it, 93,610. And so what I do is I try to strategically plan that I have 100 for here. And you see I own 120. And so I buy the hundreds when I can, but I also buy the small ones. So if it's a 1, 2, or whatever it is, I buy it. And I try to make sure I have 100 of these snow globes. If I have more, 150 or so, then I'll buy some gear, because I think it's important that we plan for DD8. That's another discussion. But you can see the ones I'm low on. And typically we need a lot of these when we're actually DD9. And when you're planning for the next dark dimension, you need a lot of these. So that's what I'm doing there. And just a sidebar, I'm pretty much doing the same thing here, just buying the gear. And so you see where I've built up other areas and where I'm still low. Now, in this particular one, I want to get it up some more. I think I'm going to go ahead and buy this, because we just never know who we want to take. So I'll buy that since I have some more. And I've been buying this because you see this is low. So we'll probably need 19. I know I can do one character. I probably took somebody up and I can't remember who it is. But since we have time, I will continue to try to buy these particular pieces to get them to 38. So that way I can have two characters I can take up. Now, jumping back over to the Shadow King rewards, what I want to point out here is that my hope is to finish top 200. But if I finish top 500, the goal is accomplished. So you see I'll get 120. So if I'm at 370 because of the calendar, and then I add 120, then I would have, what is that, 490? I'd have 490. And so I'd be 250 away. This calendar is 30 days. And so it gives me a good chance to get the 250 just strategically using the store for 30 days. And that includes refreshing the store to the 50s and having enough gold. You'd have to dedicate the gold to doing this. So if you don't have enough gold, this system wouldn't work for you. But you could still try to get to a 4 or a 5 strategically planning, and you'd have to map out how you spend your gold and how many times you refresh the store. I'm able to do this, as you can see, because I buy both passes. And you'll see that there's a lot of gear that I don't need, but typically I buy it because I can still make use of the Elite 7s, any type of catalyst gear that's red, and the ability, the training mats, and the gold. And so any gold that I get here, as well as you see there are some snow orbs in this particular one. So this will be 60. So these add up to help me get to this goal. So it's just taking advantage of the store. I don't need Oath. I've taken her up, so I didn't buy it for that. So you're looking, so I looked at the dark promo credits and the dark diamond credits. Those help me. I finished this one, but you see the dark diamond credits here. You see gold. And so those are things I look to get, because that helps to keep me going. But if you don't have the gold, we do get a lot of gold, and it would mean how maybe buying less from the gold store, depend on how you want to prioritize the rest of this month, or the next 30 days, I should say, to make sure you get your Shadow King to 4 or 5 red. And a lot of times when I do that, I just buy from the bottom here, because you still would have from January to probably March sometime to build up your red gear. And so that's the plan here. And this is what I feel like is going to help me get to a 6 red Shadow King, even if I place top 500. And so for many guys, I think if you can get in the top 5,000, because that's 80 snow globes, you would be doing very well. And that will be a plan to get to top 5,000, stay in top 5,000, and work this system to get up to the five red.